In this video, we're going to be continuing to talk about different types of angles, adjacent angles, and vertical angles. So make sure, first of all, that you are on the page that says adjacent angles. Right here, make sure you are on that page. It should say page 1. So, adjacent angles are two angles that share a common side and vertex. So what that means is a vertex is where two lines meet, so right there in the middle. So if you look, this would be one angle, and its adjacent one would be the one that shares this side in the middle, and they meet at the same point. That's just what that means. So if you want to write that the vertex where two lines meet, if that helps you, you can write that. So some things to know about adjacent angles is that they can be complementary or supplementary. But they don't have to be. Okay, so sometimes they can be complementary or supplementary. So here, that would be an adjacent angle. Those two would be adjacent. But if we look, something like that won't necessarily add up to 90 or 180. Or if we see that's less than 90 right here, so that wouldn't be complementary. They don't have to be, but they can be. Just a note. Okay, let's look at some examples and non-examples. Okay, so this example here, you might see some adjacent angles. You might see other ones too. So examples of adjacent angles would be ones that share a common side. So down here, oops, that's not the marker I wanted. So if you look, here's a common side, angle 1, angle 2 is touching that same side, and they meet at the same point, right here. So those would be adjacent angles, so let's write that. Right, angle 1 and angle 2 would be adjacent angles. Let me erase that so it doesn't get too confusing. So if we look on this line, here's angle 2. It shares a spot with angle 3. Then looking at this line, angle 3 and angle 4 share. And finally, you have this line here that I've highlighted in black, angle 4 and angle 1. So those are all pairs of adjacent ones. So you see they share a common side, they meet at the same point. Now let's go over to a non-example. So name two angles that are not adjacent. if I look right here, angle 1 and angle 3, although they share a common vertex in the middle, they do not share common sides. Let me do it in a different color. They don't share any common sides. So angle 1 and angle 3 are not adjacent. What other ones do we see? I have angle 4 and angle 2. Again, they share this common point in the middle, but they don't share a common side. So angle 2 and 4. Are not adjacent. Okay, so now you should flip over to page 2 that says vertical angles. Let's go up to our definition. Vertical angles are two angles formed by the intersection of two lines. You can also think of it as they are opposite angles. So, vertical angles are two angles formed by the intersection of two lines and they're opposite from each other. So they're not adjacent. So some things to know about them is they have the same measure. We'll come back to that thought in a second. So, vertical angles are formed by the intersection of two lines. So if I have two lines like that, those are intersecting lines. So that's where vertical angles will form, and they're opposite of each other. They have the same measure. All right, let's look at some examples. So here, I'm just going to show you and highlight, circle them with me. So vertical angles, they're opposite. So 1, well, that's not a pen. 1 and 3 are vertical angles. Notice that they're opposite of each other, they're not adjacent. And then 2 and 4 are also opposite of each other. So you can kind of see how vertical angles, if we look right here, 1 and 3, those angles look to be about the same. So we can kind of see that they would probably have the same measure. Oh, Larry saw that. Good job. There we go. So an example problem you might see might say, find the measure of angle B. And I know that angle B and this 46-degree angle, those are vertical angles. So I know that angle B is just equal to 46 degrees because I know they have the same measure. So that's all I really have to do for that kind. All right, go back, make sure that you've answered all the questions. Let's use this example actually real quick. This example right here under illustrations, and fill out some more information about properties and facts. So, using this picture, I can say that angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 3, and angle 2 is equal to the measure of angle 4. So as long as they're numbered this way, in that example, that will be true. Just a little example to help you with the picture. Oops, there goes my 4. All right, so now go back, see if there's anything you missed. Make sure you have all the information filled out, and then raise your hand, and I will bring you some practice problems or tell you what to do next.